Okay, here are the notes. The notes for this next assignment. I did provide this worksheet. If you can print it out, you guys follow along, right? So you don't have to draw these out. If you don't have a printer and you can't print these out, just on a separate piece of paper, copy this into your notes, or actually hopefully you have a notebook, copy the directions, and then you just copy these problems down, right? So number one, you'll make two parallel lines, you'll do the transversal, and you guys can copy it down right here. This is x plus 103 degrees, and this is 85 degrees. So if you don't have a printer, well, you're just gonna have to copy everything by hand. So I'm gonna just go ahead. Remember, you guys can always pause it, you guys can rewind it, you guys can watch and view it as many times. Okay, so picking up where we left off, if you remember the last notes, you don't have to write this down, but we're talking about two parallel lines, and you'll see the little double arrowhead, right? That tells you that it's a parallel cut by a transversal. And then we learned that whatever this angle is going to be, right? These are vertical angles. And also alongside with the vertical angles, we have what? Supplementary angles. And whatever this measure of this angle is, well, that's going to be the same as this measure of this angle, right? And the last assignment, you just had numbers. You just had angle measures, like if this is 70 degrees, well, then this one's 70 degrees, and then so these are vertical, and then remember, these form a straight line. These two angles form a straight line, so they add up to 180, or if you want to see these two, they add up to 180. So you figure it out, you did the calculations, and it was like 110 and 110, right? And then when you figured it out on one of these intersections here where these two intersect, since these are parallel, since these lines are parallel, so we understood that this and these are like exact angles, and you just kind of copy and paste. Remember that? So this on the top is blue. That means this one's blue. And then this was 70, and this one's going to be 7. And you kind of did it that way, right? Okay, good. It's not going to be as easy as this one, as the previous assignment, today's assignment. You're still going to use this, though. You're still going to understand that whatever angle measures you find in one, right? Because once you find one of them, you can find the next one. You can find all four. But honestly, only when you copy everything over, you're not going to copy all of them, and I'll explain that during the notes. But you're using that same understanding that since the lines are parallel, and any of these angles in whatever position they are here, they correspond. They're called corresponding angles. Corresponding. All right, so let's jump into doing the problems that you're going to see. And let me just give you a look at what they look like. See, they look a little bit more intimidating because they have, let me zoom in. This first one's easy. I put one of them that has an angle measure, but they're going to have expressions now. And see, now it looks like it's a little bit more complicated, more confusing, but it's not. It's just as easy as these down here, okay? And then eventually we're going to build up. And again, see, you don't have just simple angle measures anymore. You have these expressions. But we'll talk about it and we'll work them out, and you guys are going to be fine. Okay, same thing over here. See, they have expressions now, not just simple angle measures. All right, let's jump into it here. Okay. So again, we have the symbols for these, that these are parallel. It says to solve for x, so I know that when I find any of them here, right, I'm obviously going to start and see if there's one of them that has the angle. It's this one down here in the bottom where this, so I'm kind of going to ignore the top one here, and I'm just going to focus on the bottom one, right? Remember, when we have two intersecting lines, I know this is 85. Well, then I know that this one's 85, right? Those are vertical angles. And then what do? Remember, then I know that 85 plus that missing angle has to add up to 180. Or you can look at the bottom ones. 85 plus this angle has to add up to 180. It's going to be the same angle, right? So it's going to be 95, right? 95 degrees, 95 degrees. Now, how are you going to do these problems? Well, now, remember, all of these do correspond, but I don't want you to copy them all over. I don't want you to copy them all the way up here, because then they're going to, it's going to get all sloppy. So pretty much, which one is in this? If I look at these two lines right here, which one is in this position? Right, if here's my two lines crossing, wouldn't you say this is like on the left bottom, like on the bottom left over here? This one's on the bottom left. So which one over here is also on the bottom left? Well, let's see. It would be this one. You see they're in this same spot, in this bottom left. So that means that if this one's 95, then x plus 103 has to be what? Has to be 95. Now, another thing here is for some of these you can get a negative answer, right? Obviously, how can I add something to 103 and get a 95? It's not gonna make sense, right? So unfortunately, this is one of those where, again, since these are the ones that correspond, this one's in the bottom left and this one's in the bottom left, so I don't really need to see the other ones. I know that this angle has to be what? 95. It has to be the same as this one. So your equation that you're going to set up, right, the work you're going to show, I don't want to just see answers on your work. I'm not going to give you credit. Here now you're going to have to get equations and solve them out. So this one's going to be x plus 103. Now remember, these are in the same position, so they're equivalent angle measures. They're equivalent angles. X plus 103 has to be equal to what? 95. And then you solve it. Okay? And then again, yeah, when you subtract 103 from both sides, you're gonna, on this one, you will get a negative answer, right? 95 take away 103, I think you're gonna get 8. So x is equal to, sorry, negative 8. All right, that's the first one. Let's go to the next one. I have it here. If you have the graph paper, if you have the worksheet, you're able to print it out. If not, again, pause it now, copy it, and then push play when you're ready to go. Okay, this next one again. Now this one doesn't have any angle measures. Okay, so all you got to do is just correspond. Correspond means to, let me go back to number 1. Remember these correspond? It's like if I tell you, oh, this 95 is in the top right, right? It's in the top right corner. Well, then it would correspond where? Over here to this one, to the top right corner. You see, that's what I mean by corresponds, right? They correspond to the same. This one is in the top right, top right. This one, 85, is in the top left, over here, top left. This one's in the bottom left, bottom left. That's what I mean by corresponding. It's like what I talked about before, copy and paste over. That's called corresponding. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to decide, it doesn't matter which way you go, but here's my parallel lines. All right, you see the little symbols with the double arrowhead? I'm going to move either this one down over here, or I'm going to move this one up here. What I mean is, I don't want to have the two pieces of information on two separate intersections. Right here I got one intersection with these lines intersecting here. Here I got another. I don't want the information on two separate. I want it in the same spot. So let me take this one out of here and move it over here. Where would this one correspond? So that I can write it over here. Well, if I look at this one's on the bottom right. So where would this correspond? Right here. So I'm going to write exactly what this says. 11x plus 12. right? So now, right, this angle, whatever it is, obviously it's in the same corresponding position, right? So I'm going to copy it over here so that I have the information here on the same intersection line. So now I'm not going to pay attention to this, right? I'm just going to focus on this, see? Now, what type of angles are these? Remember, there's only two types that are created. Remember, there's only two types of angles that are created when you have two intersecting lines. You either have vertical angles, right? Vertical angles are congruent. If it's this one with this one, if they're congruent, you set them equal to each other. Or if it's this one with this one, those are also vertical. You set them equal to each other. In this case, are these vertical angles? Yes. You see, they're like, remember, they're like across from each other. These are vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. But for math, we set them equal to each other, right? Because if this was like 120 degrees, wouldn't this one also be 120 degrees? They'd be equal. So you set them equal to each other. Now, not on this problem, but what if this 11x plus 12 was up here? I just want to mention that because you're going to have some like this on your assignment. Let me mention it real quick. If you had the scenario where, let me just do it here. Right, this one's a what? 13x minus 4. If you had this one here and this one happened to be over here, 11x plus 12, are these vertical angles? No. What was the other type of angles? What would you do in this case if the problem was like this and you had one expression here and the other one right here? Well, these are not vertical angles, right? These are not vertical angles, are the ones that are like across from each other, like opposite of each other. What type of angles are these? Well, remember from the other lesson, there's two types of angles, vertical angles and supplementary angles. These two have to add up to what? These two have to add up to 180. So if you get a scenario like this, where they're not vertical angles, but they're forming a straight angle, then the equation that you would set up for this would be the 13x minus 4, which is this one, added to what? Added to the 11x plus 12 equals to 180, and then you'd have to solve it. But that's not what's happening here in this problem, right? I'm just giving you an example or just explaining. Something much easier is happening here. They're vertical angles. They are exactly vertical angles. So this one, whatever it is, would be this one. What do we do with vertical angles? We set them equal to each other. So I set this expression 13x minus 4 equal to what? 11x plus 12. And then you solve it. Your assignment and your work, your assignment better have an equation and it better show me the work. I don't want to just see answers. I need to see the process. I need to see that you're setting up the equation right and that you're solving it right. How do you solve this equation? I got x's on both sides. I got numbers on both sides. Well, from Algebra 1, let me just copy it over again. Remember from Algebra 1 how to solve equations. You want to have all the variables on one side and all the numbers on the other side. First, let me get all the variables on the left. So this 11x, I'm going to subtract it from here and I'm going to subtract it from here. Remember, whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. What am I left with? 13x minus 11x is 2x. I still got this minus 4 equals, and then 12. All right, so I got 2x minus 4 equals 12. I got the variables on this side. I don't want the number here. I don't want this minus 4 here. How do we solve this so that it gets out of here and you get it to this side? Well, plus 4 and plus 4, right? We do the opposite here. Whatever we do to this side, we do to this side. Okay, so you're left with 2x equals what? 12 plus 4 is 16. 2x equal to 16, I think you can solve 2x is equal to 16, right? Divide by 2, divide by 2. The answer is what? 8. 8 is the answer. Okay? 8 is the answer for the value of x. If they ask you how much the angle is, well, then you know that you have to do what? Get the value of x, which is 8, substitute it in here, but I don't think it's asking me that. All right, let's see one more for this video, and then I'm going to do a couple more on the second video. All right, so this video, last one here for number 3 for this first video. And the other ones are pretty much the same, a little bit different, but just make sure you watch both videos. Here I go again. Remember, I don't want the information from wherever it is, however it might look, but I'm going to correspond. Remember, correspond. That means to do what? Take one of them, either the one from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom, or if it's left to right, right to left. I don't want them in separate intersections. I want them in the same one. So if I were to correspond this one and I'm going to move it over here, aren't these in the same, like, this is like on the top left, and this one's also on the top left? Yeah, it is. These are exactly in the same what? They're corresponding. They're in the same place where they're supposed to be. I mean, if I copy this one over here, I'd copy it right here, right over it, right on top of it, right? But these angles are corresponding, right? Just like vertical angles are congruent. Just like vertical angles are congruent. Remember, when I correspond and I put this 110 here and this 70 here and then this 70 here and this 110 here. Ooh, that's more than 110. Right? And now I look at this one and I look at this one right there on the top left. See, they're the same because they're corresponding. They're the same. So not only are vertical angles congruent, corresponding angles will also be congruent, right? Because it's the same angle, they correspond. They're in the same location. Okay, so in this case, these expressions, they're in the same location. So they're like vertical angles, they're congruent. So what do we do with congruent parts? We set those equal to each other, right? This angle is going to be equal to this angle. Again, instead of numbers, you have expressions. So I'm going to put the 13x plus 9, which is this one, equal to the what? 14x plus 2. Right? That's going to be for this problem. But again, on the homework, if this one happened to be over here, let's say on the homework, not on this one, but let's say if this one was here and you corresponded here, 14x plus 2, right? This is, if it was here, and then you corresponded here, see now when you look at this, see these, they're not vertical. These are the ones that are, what? Supplementary angles, right? They make a straight line. So in this case, you'd put this plus this equal to 180. Okay, but that's not happening here. So let me finish and solve this. I'm going to do minus 14x, minus 14x. 13 take away 14 is negative 1x. Plus 9 equals 2. Then that's going to give me, oh, now I got to move this plus 9 over there. So minus 9, minus 9. Okay, so that's going to be negative 1x equals 2 take away 9 is negative 7. Negative 1x equals negative 7. Divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1. You're going to get x is equal to positive 7. That's the value of x. Okay, I'll stop this one here and we'll do 3 more on the next video. Thank you.